Hello and welcome to Magnetic Rise. I am your host, Cikizwa A. Vilakazi. This is the podcast where we uncover the real stories behind the scaling journeys of B2B companies. Together, we explore the highs, the lows, and the pivotal decisions that have helped these businesses thrive in today's competitive landscape. Barry, welcome to Magnetic Rise. It is an absolute privilege to have you on our show.
Siki, thank you very much. I'm very excited about this, and it's a pleasure to meet you in person.
Awesome. So obviously I haven't introduced you in our introduction, and that's because I like to give the guests a chance to introduce themselves. So to get us started, can you share a bit about who you are and your background?
I'm Barry LaBov. I am the founder of LaBov Marketing Communications and Training. I am the author of The Power of Differentiation, and that's what my company focuses on. One word, which is differentiation, how to stand out, how to discover what makes you unique, name it, honor it, and celebrate it. That's what we're all about. We work with companies worldwide, from Macallan Scotch to BRP, to Audi, Mercedes-Benz, Harley-Davidson, lots of really wonderful companies that we've heard of, and then a lot of smaller ones that are absolutely phenomenal as well. So it's an exciting thing for us because we get to discover the magic, and that's what's so exciting.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing portfolio of partners that you've got there. What was the initial spark or inspiration behind starting LaBov and beyond?
It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. I was a recording engineer and musician at a recording studio, and I found out that the people running the studio were not being honest. They were not paying the musicians. And so one morning I got up and I told my wife, I said, look, I'm going to have to talk to the boss, because if he's not paying the people, I'm going to have to quit. And she said, well, do you think you'll quit today? And I said, I don't think he'll be honest enough. You know, if he's being dishonest, he'll probably lie about it. But when I confronted him, he said, yeah, you're right. I didn't pay them. I'm not going to pay them. And that's it. So I said, I quit. And he says, well, you cannot quit. I said, why? He says, because you'll starve without me. You cannot survive without me. You don't have talent. And I said, well, you know, even if I don't have talent, I'd rather starve than work for somebody that's ripping off the musicians. So I left. And Siki, what happened was, I didn't realize this. I then decided, okay, I've got to go do something for a living. And I thought I would continue doing some music work. And within about 2 weeks, that company went out of business. And I didn't realize that the work I was doing was actually what was keeping them in business. So all of a sudden, I inherited their clients, and that's how I started it. So it was originally in the music area. It then grew into marketing, video, internet, technology, etc.
Sure, that's quite the story. And as you grew, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, especially in the early stages? Because like you said, you left on a whim.
Well, I had to face the fact that I did not have money. So that wasn't good. So my wife worked really hard. And so I worked from, 6 a.m. till midnight. Another challenge was waking up and having no momentum. We were going through a recession in the United States at the time, so business was really bad. Every day was a grind. Every day was really difficult. That was very difficult. And then I had to go find people that would work with me, but not need a salary. They would only be paid once I got paid. And so that was difficult. It was hard to build a company like that because I had nothing. I was really working on a shoestring.
Sure. And what were some of the key lessons that you learned along the way as you grew that shaped how you run your company now?
Some of the things that were most important to me were, number one, if I was going to do something, I did not want to be just another local company. I wanted to be good enough that somebody elsewhere in the country would want to work with me, or could be even a large company, a famous company we've all heard about. And that was important to me because in our city of Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is a great city, I love it, it was really hit hard by that recession. And I thought, what I've got to do is look beyond the city limits here. I got to go past that. And I've got to go reach out all over the nation. And that's what I did. That was one of the big learnings for me, which was stop thinking local, think national, think, like why can't, for instance, Disney hire my company? Why do I have to think I'm only good enough for a local brand to work with me? So one of the lessons was think big, raise your standards, really go for it. Another thing that I learned that really affected me was working with people. Look at people as the greatest opportunity for you and them to succeed. Don't look at them as somebody or something you use and then discard. So I had to develop relationships with people, and, they weren't getting paid a lot of money from me, so they had to trust me. And if they didn't trust me, they're going to leave. And the other thing I learned, the third thing, was sacrifice. So I had the oldest car of any of the people in my company. My wife had the second oldest car. Everybody else had some newer cars and lived in nicer homes than we did. And I went 7 years without taking a salary. I went 7 years. But that was thanks to my wife, who was working as a customer service rep at an insurance agency, not making much money, but we got by. And so to me, it was a lot of sacrifice. And it hopefully doesn't sound like it was a horrible time for me. I was really enjoying it and we were having a great time, but we were really stressed as far as no cash and had to work really hard.
And listening to your story, it seems as though you would have needed to have a lot of people around you who had some sort of faith in you, some sort of trust to stick around to get you to where you are now. I would assume that being able to do that, especially without being able to offer people large salaries, would require a business to have a strong culture, so that people actually have a reason to stay committed to the cause. What role does culture then play in scaling a business effectively, in your opinion?
Well, in the beginning, your culture is just you, and then it might be you and a couple of people. There's not a giant culture there that you can call on. I think what happens over time is you can call it culture, you develop this way of doing business, this level of trust or not trust, this level of teamwork or not teamwork, somewhere in those, areas of no teamwork or you're a great team. You develop these things. And I think also sometimes culture is hit and miss. Sometimes you're doing things and it just doesn't seem to work. You go, you know what, maybe this isn't the way we should run this business. So culture in the beginning of a startup, I think, is important. I think it gets incredibly important the further away people get from the original person who started. So I was the original person, and in the beginning, I was talking to every client. Well, as soon as I started to add people, there were clients that did not talk to me much. There were clients who I did not know much or as much of what we were doing. And that's where culture plays in, because would that person say, well, wait a minute, we have to have this high standard? Would I be able to explain what's so important about why we do things this way? And that's what's important. My book, which is The Power of Differentiation, talks about culture. And you have to have a differentiated culture, and it's got to be based on certain things. So as I mentioned to you, Ciki, it might be a level of integrity and honesty with each other. It might be a standard of work where we do not rest until we think we did a job we're proud of. So as opposed to, I'll just shove it out the door. We don't care. It's 5 o'clock. I'm out of here. I couldn't run that kind of a business. So my culture was, until Barry and the others are happy, we're not done. So that's how we did it.
That's amazing. Touching on your book that you mentioned, can you give us a brief synopsis of the topics that you explore within the books? What lessons do you share with your audiences? Obviously not going too much in depth, because we do want them to go ahead and read it as well.
I would best describe the book as a collection of inspiring stories of inspiring people who motivated and inspired their teams, rallied their teams. So it's not a book about me. I'm barely in the book, but it's mostly people I know, I love, I've worked with. And it shares how it is so important, whether it's a small company or a large one, to discover what makes you who you are and to not veer away from it, to not commoditize it, but discover and honor it. Make sure you do not change that. And then spread that word, but starting with the most important people in the world, and that is your employees, the people who are with you, whether it's 2 people or 2,000 or 20,000, it's the people behind the product, giving them a sense of significance and purpose in what they do. And if you think about it, that's, again, the book's all about that. You think about today, people who are running businesses, they're worried, gee, am I going to have a lot of turnover at the company? Are my employees doing a poor job? Do they really care? Well, if they're not given a reason to believe that what they're doing actually has some level of significance, then why should they care? Why should they stay with you? If what you're doing is not that special, they ought to leave, right? So the book is all about, hey, take a look at that. Here's a story of this person or that person, how he or she identified what really made them distinct, named it, went through a process and rallied people. And all of a sudden their customers start going, you know what, I want to buy more of that product. And you know what, I'll pay a premium. I'll pay a fair price because I really think what they're doing is worth it.
Speaking of customer experience, how can startups especially avoid any common mistakes that businesses make when it comes to customer experience?
My message to startups, and I was a startup, is to not think mass marketing right away, because it is too easy to have these grandiose dreams of, oh, we're going to sell 1,000 of these and 1,000,000 of these and 100 of these, and I'm going to just sit back and count all the money coming in. I don't believe in that. I believe that it's one customer at a time. And it's not a market of 1,000 customers. It's 1,000 markets of one customer, meaning you've got to please your customer. And the minute that you start to look at them as all the same, you're going to lose out. So I love the startup that goes, hey, I'm going to start up. I'm going to move at a pretty measured, slow pace, and I'm going to make sure I am pleasing and learning from my customers one at a time, and I will grow, but I'm going to grow as I learn and improve what I'm doing. That's what I think. I think it's too dangerous to just say, hey, we're going to try to sell 1,000,000 of these and we're going to use automation. And I just don't feel that that is long-term sustainable.
That's a very impactful piece of advice, especially because I think when it comes to especially things like marketing and branding, the general approach is to go towards the more mass marketing approach than it is to go with an individualized approach to your customer, which does then make the difference. Because even when I think back to my own experiences, the places where I've gone back is where I felt as though I was treated like an individual catered to. So that's very, very, yeah.
Well, Ciki, think how many times you'll get a message, could be an email, whatever, and it's obvious that either AI or somebody just copied and pasted. They may have misspelled your name, and they send you this message. And what do? You discard it. You delete it. And I still write personalized messages every time I send something out. I reach out to people on a daily basis. I do not put together generic messages and drop a name in. I constantly look at this and go, okay, what do I really want to say to this person? What do I really want to ask this person? What do I know about this person? Make it personal, because otherwise I want them to treat me the same way as I would treat them, which is they should delete. Just get rid of it. So I think it is personalized. It's too easy in a world where they want us to be commoditized, to act like it. And then when you do that, Ciki, what happens is you've got to lower your prices because everybody else has lowered their prices. And since you've gotten rid of all the unique things you were doing, well, now you're not that special. So your price goes down even further. But now you've got to compete with more companies that are even cheaper, and it gets worse and worse. And then your employees go, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. We're not doing anything special. I used to love what we do. Now I don't like it at all. So it's a race to the bottom, as they say. I know what I'm saying will not fit everybody, but I do think that it is a strong consideration to look at each individual customer one by one and please them, especially when you're a startup.
That's true. And in today's day and age, it's so easy to get caught up in putting everyone in one umbrella, especially because we've got tools like AI. ChatGPT can easily write a template for you to send out to your customers, or build a mass marketing plan or strategy for you that doesn't necessarily speak to who you are as a human and doesn't necessarily translate to the next human the way that you would have liked it. Yeah.
That's very well said. That's great.
Yeah. And speaking about things like trends and what's coming up, how do you see customer experience evolving in today's business landscape?
Customer experience is really important because to all of us, and I think this is really important, we talk about it in the book, the experience you get when you are in a store or you are purchasing a product, in your mind, that is the brand. So if you think you're going to purchase a really great product and you go into a store or a dealership and you're trying to buy it and they treat you poorly or they don't understand the product themselves, you walk out and you don't say, that's a great brand, but I don't like that salesperson. You normally do something different. You walk out and say, I'll never buy that brand again. That brand is no good. That's not for me. So what we have to realize is each of our brands has to have an experience. So each of us that have a brand out there, what is the experience? Is it consistent? I don't mean robotic, but is it consistent? If you have 1,000 stores, are there 1,000 different experiences that your customers may get? Or is there one overall experience that is humanized? I mean, it's not going to be robotic, but one overall experience where the customer is treated in a certain way, they're shared certain information, they're demonstrated things in a certain path, so whatever you want to call it. Customer experience today is very important, and it doesn't have to just be with people. It can also be, if you look at Amazon, there is a customer experience you get with Amazon. So if the technology is there to suit the person, to suit the customer, it's great. If the technology is there to suit the brand or the company at the expense of the customer, it's not going to work. So if you look at Amazon makes it easy to buy. It makes it easy to consider similar products. It also makes it easy to go, you know what, I don't like it, I'm sending it back. They make it easy, and there's no human involved in it. So you go, wow. You go to an Apple store, you meet one of their Apple geniuses, that individual knows and loves the products. And you feel it from her or from him. You just go, oh my gosh, that's a great experience there. Now, if you go into an Apple store and the guy or woman goes, yeah, I don't care about this, I'll show you it, I hardly know anything about it either, that is a bad brand experience. So very important, your experience should be differentiated. It should fit the brand you have. It should be consistent. On a bad day, it should be pretty darn good. On a great day, it should be fantastic.
Yeah, and that can make or break any company, no matter how big, no matter how small. I really wish we could continue with this conversation, but before we close, I am really interested in finding out, how do you envision yourself continuing to make an impact in the leadership and customer experience space? Because it seems like there's a lot you've got to share that isn't necessarily the trajectory that everyone else is going towards, which is very interesting, especially to me.
The focus that we have at my company is to use the book, The Power of Differentiation, as a platform to inspire a minimum of 1 million people. So you're in South Africa, I'm here in the United States. I want to inspire 1 million or more people with this message. And that's how we're going to do it. And sometimes it's one person at a time, which is great. That's why I do podcasts. Sometimes there's one person that says, I love this, and they run a company that has 30,000 people working for it. Either way, it's important. I want to spread the word that we cannot go commodity in this world. We have to go differentiation. We have to honor what makes us unique. Honor the people who create it with us, celebrate it, and then you can tell the world. So that's the path I have. We're going to use the book as the platform.
That is just beautiful. That's beautiful. Barry, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your insights from everything, overcoming early challenges to shaping the future of customer experience. Your story is a true testament to what's possible when passion and purpose drive a business, and also when you have people who truly care about what you're doing around you. I mean, from what I've heard in your story, it seems like you wouldn't be where you are without the help of your wife. And that's not something that a lot of people are blessed with. So I hope that your relationship in that aspect also continues to grow as your company grows. Sure. Thank you so much again. And for our listeners, where can they connect with you to learn more about what you're doing?
Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. My name, I'll answer every inquiry. You can go to my website, barrylabov.com. You can go to Amazon and buy the book. So please reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And that is it for today's episode of Magnetic Rise. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with your network, and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with leaders shaping the future of business. Until next time, keep rising with us here at Magnetic Rise.